This is a video that will hopefully convince you to shun what so many people tell you about getting to one channel and mastering it, and convince you to do every single lead generation method available to you. So, in our lead generation funnel, we have four main ways to generate leads, and everything is going to be basically under one of these four buckets or umbrellas. We have paid ads, we have content, we have outreach, and we have partnerships. So, paid ads, of course, Google ads, Meta ads, TikTok, LinkedIn, but also stuff like sponsoring newsletters, running on directories, running on TV, podcasts, radio, literally anything you can think of. We have content, usually on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, blogs, newsletters, that kind of stuff. We have outreach, either online or even in person, with our cold emails, cold calls, cold DMs, manual prospecting, door to door sales, whatever. And then we have our partnerships, which are white label, referral, media, and joint venture. So, white label is another company basically hires you to fulfill their service. Referral kind of speaks for itself. Media is you speak at events, you go on podcasts, you go on YouTube channels, you are a guest posting or whatever. And then joint venture is when you work with someone else to, know, form an offer that neither of you could really fulfill on yourself and you split the profits or do whatever. These are the four ways to drive traffic and get customers, and all of that traffic flows down the funnel until usually a sales call if we're talking about some product more than $1,000. And that's kind of how it is for most stuff. 72% of businesses is estimated are service businesses, and this will apply to every single one of them, whether that's B2B or B2C. The first reason that we want to basically take advantage of all those lead generation methods is for diversification. And I really am not a big fan of the pick one channel and master it advice that is often given. The main reason for that is that things are always changing. And when we only have one channel, we are inherently taking on a lot of risk. An ad account gets banned, a cold email algorithm changes, or the exploits get patched, or your content just doesn't break out to cold audiences for a while, and you churn a couple clients or whatever, and you're essentially back to zero. Having multiple traffic sources will prevent that from happening, and if and one fails, the others can pick up the slack and stop the bleeding and lead to a much more stable business. The second is that when you do all of these different traffic sources, each one of them make the other ones more effective. What is lost on many people, in my opinion, is that when you do all four of these as part of the overall system, you make them each more effective individually too. For example, if someone has seen your paid ads and your content before, maybe they follow you, maybe they, booked a call at one point and didn't buy, they're much more likely to respond favorably to your outreach if and when they kind of randomly get it 2 months from now. Or if someone clicks on your ad and goes to your profile and there's a bunch of useful content on there, they're much more likely to click and convert or take whatever action that you want them to take in comparison to if your profile was blank. And there's just many situations of how this works together. And you're never really going to make the most out of one channel when it's the only channel you do, contrary to that popular advice. It's kind of an oxymoron to some degree. Not an oxymoron, but I don't know what the word would be. But you can only really get the most out of each channel by having the other channels alongside it. The next one is that when you have all of those four methods, they average out both cost and scale. And all four of the methods cost varying amounts. There's costs in time and labor, but there's also costs in dollars. Then there are varying amounts in terms of scale, predictability, and being potentially viral, I guess you could say. Content is cheap or it's free if you do it yourself, but it's very time intensive and unpredictable. Outreach is cheap, but it's very linear and can be labor intensive to manage if it's at a large scale. When you add, there's not really a situation where you get exponential results from outreach. It's more of you want to double your leads from outreach, you have to just double the amount of outreach you're going to do. Paid ads cost money and are expensive, but they don't require much time and they have the most infinite potential in terms of scaling. And partnerships take a long time to form and build, but both unlock scale and stability once you have those good partnerships. If you were to do only one of those methods, you wouldn't really be well rounded and you would suffer in terms of costs or in terms of time, effort, and scale, as opposed to all of them. So if you are spending all this money on ads and labor, and that's all you do, you're just going to have a high customer acquisition cost. You're going to be scalable, but you're going to be less profitable. You put in the content, you put in the outreach to supplement that, you're going to basically get the best of all the worlds. If you just only did outreach, there's no long-term assets, there's no real, exponential scale, there's no virality, and if you just did content, it's fine, but your income is going to be very unpredictable. So they average out cost, the stability, and the scale when you do all four of them. The next is for those who have aspirations to sell their business one day, because all four of them make your business way more valuable. The question that I think everybody should be asking themselves is, does my business have a high likelihood of producing future cash flow without me being involved? That's a good question to kind of get a valuation or determine how valuable your business is. That is the question that determines whether or not your business is valuable and can be sold, and if sold, for what terms or what amount. Because a lot of people brag that they had an exit for 50 million, but if you look at the terms, it's 90% earnout. They're going to be lucky to get 2.5 of that after tax. And it sounds good, but oftentimes the terms of selling your business are just as, if not more important than the actual amount. Having multiple different traffic sources that can be managed and largely fulfilled by multiple different people or teams leads to big enterprise value. You might have a content team, you might have a paid ads team, you might have a outreach team, you might have a partnerships team that you are not really involved in other than the actual being the face of the content. Obviously, this does not mean you have to sell your business or even desire that, but I think it's a great point of view when you're building and just thinking in general, because same things that make your business valuable to either an investor or an acquirer are the exact same things that make it valuable to you: stability, cash flow, profit, high likelihood of producing cash flow in the future, and all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to sell, but the interests of you and a potential acquirer are identical, as you're the owner and you're going to reap that reward. They buy it because it's going to make a lot of money. You keep it because it's going to make a lot of money. The next is that when you only have one of these things, you simply cannot capture the entire market without all of them. Certain people just don't use certain platforms and just will not respond to certain things. It's different for everybody. Some people will respond to ads only, some people respond to content, some people don't consume anything and you have to outreach them. Some people won't even do anything with you unless someone else recommended you, like a partnership. And this is especially true as you go up market and start selling to bigger and bigger businesses, and is also true with older audiences. If you're not using all forms of traffic, you're not really even going to capture a sliver of your overall potential. For many people, especially the older ones and the more important ones who are busier, the only way to contact them is through outreach. For others, they won't do anything unless they watch 10 videos first. For some, they're just doom scrolling all day and they click on an ad and that's really all they do. For the highest value clients, it's usually partnerships or networking. So you have to do all of them. And if you don't do all of them, you will not be able to make a large percentage of your target market even be aware of your existence, let alone bring them to the where they're a lead and then a prospect and then a client. So, all in all, that is why you need to do every lead generation method available to you. Of course, usually you're going to start with or outreach, then you're going to add on content, then ads while forming partnerships. But don't stop or don't just become a master of one, because when you do that, these five benefits are not going to be available to you and your business is going to suffer for it. So that is it for today. If you like this video, give me a comment and subscription, and I will see you next time.